My wife sneered at my handmade lunch as she stormed in with McDonald's, despite my hurt shoulder. She looked at it and said, "God, even your food looks as pathetic as you do." She then left. Then she went to our 6-year-old daughter and said, "Sweetheart, I promise you that you will never fail as much as your dad did." Sure, some males just can't help but fail. As I silently put away the elaborate anniversary supper I had prepared, I observed them devouring their burgers without offering a word. Something shattered inside of me yesterday, and now my phone is exploding with 13 missed calls from her. I need to get this off my chest before my brain totally freezes up. For 12 years, Eden and I have been wed. My world revolves around our 6-year-old daughter, Poppy. I have worked really hard to support my family for the last 10 years. Nothing flashy, just hard labor that allows us to pay the bills and maintain our modest suburban 3-bedroom home. I have always paid my mortgage on time. Was never one to gripe about the lengthy shifts. I ruptured my rotator cuff on the job 3 weeks ago. The doctor prescribed this bulky shoulder brace and movement restrictions, not entirely, but enough. The agony has been serious. Since lying flat gives me the willies, I've taken to sleeping in the recliner and eating ibuprofen like candy. Our anniversary was yesterday. 12 years. I still wanted to do something special, despite everything that has been happening between us recently. Since Eden has been new throughout the last many years. Cold. Very important. Always looking for a new target. How I choose to dress. What I say. My dad makes jokes that Poppy finds funny even now. I originally assumed that she was just dealing with the stress of her job. But now it's like a constant, and nothing I do is good enough. The woman I loved is still fresh in my mind. I decided to have dinner delivered to her as a surprise. Her fave. Pan-seared fish with her beloved garlic butter sauce. Some asparagus that has been roasted. Not to mention the sourdough bread that I've been mastering in my time spent healing. To top it all off, I baked tiramisu from scratch after she stated last month how much she missed it. With just one functional arm, all the while coping with a nagging ache that has followed me everywhere I go. The prospect of lending a hand filled Poppy with joy. Grasping the miniature apron that her grandmother had given her as a present. As I attended to the stove duties, she delicately tore the lettuce leaves for the salad. The preparations were nearly complete. The table was arranged with the ornate dishes that we never use. Lighted candles. Presented in a petite gift box. The plain silver studs I had been putting money aside for. Resting on top of her wine glass. Hearing Eden's car pull in was at 6:42 p.m. I figured it was about dang time. Her tardiness was over an hour. Missing text. No contact. The salmon was already taking more time to relax than was necessary. The door banged shut. With McDonald's bags in her hands, Eden strode in. Continuing to wear her business attire, she appears irritated. As soon as she saw our arrangement, she scowled. Absolutely no greeting. I was unable to convey my emotions. All I did was stand there. While instructing Poppy to wash her hands, good arm remained gripping the serving spoon as she placed the fast food dish on the counter. Then she took a look at the meal that I had painstakingly prepared over the course of several hours. I still can't get those words out of my thoughts. You look as pitiful as your food, my God. I could have taken care of that myself. No marriage is perfect. What followed, though, broke a part of me that I'm not sure can be repaired. She then looked over at our daughter. As Poppy sat there in her little apron, I spoke to her sweet, innocent voice and reassured her that she would never fail as her father had. In life, some men are destined to fail. Listen, I am not embellishing or fabricating anything. Her exact words were those. We had our 6-year-old witness it. Regarding her dad, Poppy's expression was utterly bewildered. Her gaze fell upon me. Afterwards, she approaches her mother. After that, we would dine together at the table. Her small brain was clearly attempting to make sense of everything that was going on. Nobody heard me yell. No tears shed. Avoided banging doors. Your character is revealed in how you handle yourself when you're down and out, my dad would tell me time and time again. As they munched on their burger, I discreetly put everything away. Eden perused her phone's notifications. Poppy, serene, calmly nibbled on her Happy Meal plush dog. The candlelight went out. Soon after they were done, I took care of their garbage, extinguished the candles, and drove to the garage to sit in my truck for an hour, trying to inhale despite the anguish and fury. Eden had returned to her reality TV show when I returned. She averted her gaze. I carried Poppy upstairs to lay her down for her nightly bath and read her a tale. Before she went to sleep, my little girl embraced me even more tightly, as if she sensed something was really wrong. While lying on the living room couch, I stared at the ceiling for the better part of the night, mentally reliving the events of the past 2 years. Disdain is growing. Each holiday on its own. Her habit of glancing away whenever I go into a room. The fact that she has begun to socialize more frequently with coworkers whose identities shift weekly. At breakfast this morning, Eden pretended like nothing had transpired. Without saying goodbye or recognizing me, she made avocado toast, kissed Poppy, and walked away. Seems like your average Thursday. I opted to take the day off, dropped Poppy off at school, and then waited in the parking lot, attempting to decipher my next move. I could just hear my dad telling me, "Son, there's a difference between being patient and being a doormat," even though he had been gone for 6 years. So I dialed 2 numbers. First, to my high school best friend who is now an attorney specializing in family law. The next stop is at my sister's house, where I'll be requesting a few days' stay with Poppy and myself to figure things out. There was a line that couldn't be crossed yesterday, and I'm not jumping into anything. You wouldn't intentionally turn your child against their dad. Crushing someone who is already wounded is not the way to go. Nobody you had sworn to love before. Tomorrow morning, I will be collecting Poppy. While I decide out what to do next, we're going to spend the weekend at my sister's house. Eden is still in the dark. When she returns home and discovers my note, she will know something is wrong. My thumb is cramping from hitting these little keys, but I'm using my good arm to type this. Somehow, getting it out helps. I may be an utter failure. Perhaps I should have been more daring, ambitious, and promotion-driven. But I've done my best to be a devoted husband and father. I should not have to endure such open disgrace in the presence of our daughter. As a physical manifestation of what I've sacrificed, the pain in my shoulder is insignificant compared to the anguish in my chest at the thought of Poppy's suffering. I had other plans for our 12th anniversary than to submit this update. And yet, here we are. My apologies for the overwhelming message. I have no idea what I'm trying to find here. Some words of wisdom? Is it validation? I had to get this out of my system before I lost it. Update 1. The event at McDonald's occurred 16 days ago. I've been a letdown to the person who lives in my house for the past 16 days. And it was 16 days of playing the long game, as my dad would say. My sister's house was the perfect getaway for Poppy and me that weekend. For 2 days, we did not yell loser at each other while we baked cookies and watched cartoons. Upon our arrival, my sister Jen noticed my face and immediately suspected that something was very wrong. I showed Jen the tape I had made on my phone during the incident after Poppy went to bed. When Eden's gaslighting became unbearable a few months back, I began recording our arguments. I am not forgetting anything. Without a doubt, her account of events is accurate. A tear fell from Jen's eye. Furious as a result. Afterwards, they wanted to know my strategy. In all honesty, I almost just texted Eden to tell her I wanted a divorce and blocked her number after that night. I wish I could say I handled things correctly. Anger is a mental illness. Plus, I was quite overheated. The voice of my father, nonetheless, lingered in my thoughts. Being well prepared always outshines being provoked, my son. So, I didn't rush to set everything on fire. Instead, I returned home with Poppy on Sunday night and if nothing had transpired. Upon our arrival, Eden hardly raised her eyes from her computer. Our weekend is out of the question. Avoid embracing Poppy. Just wanted to confirm if I had gotten her dry cleaning. Not me. Evidently, the fact that I was still sporting my shoulder brace was insufficient evidence. Later that night, I began compiling my list. When Monday rolled around, I switched banks and created a new account. Half an hour's worth of savings transferred, plus nothing more, all documented. At work, I updated my direct deposit details. I have duplicated all of our important documents, including birth certificates, bank information, and property deeds. Stuff that is boring and tedious but essential. For help, I reached out to a therapist who works with kids whose parents have split up. While on lunch break in my van, I had a video consultation. Without trash-talking Poppy's mother, she provided me some good suggestions on how to support Poppy through this. Honestly, the most difficult aspect of this entire process. On Wednesday, things got really tough. During her workday, I went to see Eden's parents at their residence. My mom was brewing coffee while her dad gave me that measured, hushed stare. These kind people brought up a girl whose face I no longer know. I played them the tape. I provided them with screenshots of Eden's messages over the previous 30 days. When her dad put down his cup, his hands trembled. They wanted to know if things could be fixed. Perhaps marital therapy. I recently listened a different recording from when I had proposed the very thing 2 months earlier. When asked if she needed a mediator to tell her she had married below her potential, Eden had laughed and claimed she didn't. All it took was a look at her parents' expressions. The next thing I knew, it was happening. I was questioned directly by Eden's mother if I felt there was someone else. I was reluctant to go there, trying not to come out as the resentful spouse who is always making excuses. Nevertheless, the inquiry revealed a secret. Oh, the sleepless nights. Putting in time. Weekend conferences that no one knows about. After years of leaving her phone unsecured, she suddenly started securing it with a password last month. I examined Eden's phone that night as she was in the shower. I get it all the time, but marriage has different limits on personal space than other types of relationships. My fingerprint had been freely used by her to verify my identity for years. I didn't find proof of an affair per se, but something nearly as bad. Her boss Jake and her exchanged hundreds of texts. Beyond the realm of professional matters. Puns intended for an exclusive audience. Criticism on my character. Elements of love. She informed me that she was working late, but we still planned dinner. Notifications regarding the fact that he comprehends her better than I do. The playbook for emotional affairs. Underlined and marked with dog ears. Screenshots were captured. I forwarded them to myself. After that, she returned her phone to its designated spot. Data is a weapon. Plus, I really needed every edge at the moment. What came next was more challenging. I had to carry on with my life as usual while taking notes. Saturday mornings are when I first began showing Poppy how to cook. Eggs, pancakes. Easy tasks that a supervised 6-year-old can manage. While we were in the middle of our third cookery class, Eden only stood and gazed. She seemed unable to comprehend the idea of her kid picking up knowledge from the guy she had written off. Her suspicions are growing. Her equilibrium is being disrupted by my unexpected serenity. The way her criticisms no longer make me cringe. How I've begun taking Poppy out for ice cream twice a week after school without first getting Eden's consent. My morning routine includes these shoulder workouts. Building strength, both physically and figuratively. Poppy and I went to the Children's Museum a couple of towns over last weekend. Eden wanted to know where we were, so she SMS'd us. I got back to you 6 hours later, right before we headed home for supper. In response, she sent 17 consecutive SMS that ranged from irritated to menacing. I presented them to my lawyer the following day. Adding them to the file was as simple as nodding his head. Even though Eden had been isolating me, I've been discreetly getting back in touch with our shared friends. No big deal. A quick note here, a cup of coffee there. My goal is not vengeance, but rather to rebuild my support system. The number of people who saw the difference in Eden but were hesitant to mention it is surprising. Also, Eden is becoming increasingly vocal. Rigidly antagonistic. As if she were plotting to make me do something foolish. While we were eating supper last night, she dropped my water glass, which landed on my phone. Her expression changed as I collected myself and cleaned up the mess without getting angry. Maybe dread. Knowing that her typical strategies aren't yielding the desired results. My attorney and I met this morning before we both started work. The paperwork for the divorce was finalized by us. At this very moment, they are contained in an envelope in my van. That day will be tomorrow. This coincided with my paycheck schedule, something I hadn't anticipated. I didn't anticipate how quickly my shoulder would heal. This morning, Poppy wanted to know if Aunt Jen's house would be available for another sleepover. Every part has found its proper place. Poppy was picked up from school just now. For the weekend, we will be visiting my sister. Eden remained unaware. So far, my phone has remained on mute. My jacket pocket is where I keep them. At a gas station, I examined it and saw that Eden had 13 missed calls in the last hour. Let her freak out. Permit her curiosity to peak. She has brought me down to my level at home for the past 2 years. Continually subjected our daughter to seeing the dismantling of her father. Accused a 6-year-old's father of being a natural loser. What about first thing on Monday? When Eden finds out how mistaken she was, it will be devastating. At long last, an update. Quite an unusual event transpired earlier today. While Poppy watched Saturday morning cartoons, I was in the kitchen of our new apartment preparing pancakes. I also came to the realization that the last time my shoulder ached, I couldn't recall. Full healing, according to the physical therapist, would take time. But in the midst of everything that was happening, the agony became insignificant. Similar to my marriage, I suppose. I tossed those documents on the kitchen table 53 days ago. What my dad would have called sowing the seeds would have been 53 days ago. What happened was so overwhelming that I am still trying to make sense of it all. I sneaked Poppy away to spend the weekend with my sister before Eden found out when we last spoke. You mean the 13 calls that went unanswered? And that was only the start. My voicemail had filled up by Sunday night. Additionally, my inbox for text messages appeared as though someone had a seizure while typing, slashing out in a fit of wrath, then bewilderment. Next comes the traditional cycle of manipulation. Potential dangers. Trips of guilt. Prompt expressions of affection. Go over it again. No one got a response from me. It was Monday morning. I dropped Poppy off at school as usual. A member of her teacher drew me aside. I brought up the fact that Poppy has been being more reserved as of late. We are going through some changes in our family, I said. The expression on her face was one of familiarity, as if she had seen this scene play out 100 times before. A booklet on supporting children through divorce was slipped into my hand. Little acts of kindness have a greater impact when you're struggling to keep it all together. Eden had departed that week for a girls' getaway, which turned out to be a weekend getaway with Jake at a cottage in upstate New York. While the girls were at the wine tasting, Melissa's Instagram stories had different location tags. Inexperienced error. On Monday night, she returned home to find the house deserted and the divorce papers spread out on the kitchen table. There will be no heated dispute. No yelling match. With the stack of mail, nothing but the harsh reality of the law awaits. It was 7:43 p.m. when the initial text message arrived. 3 simple words. Am I dreaming? Also, I didn't respond to that one. At 9:16 p.m., she abruptly arrived at Jen's residence. Eyes enlarged. Cosmetics caked on. Unlike the refined woman who had criticized my cooking skills while we were eating handmade fish, I looked terrible. Leaving Poppy and myself in the guest room, my sister went to answer the door. Immediately, the yelling began. See her daughter, Eden is demanding. Jen calmly explained that Poppy's bedtime had already passed. Angry, Eden about to contact the police. To her credit, Jen retrieved her phone with relative ease. Presented Eden with the video recording of our anniversary meal. Plus, I inquired as to whether or not she intended for the police to overhear her conversations with her husband and children. It was as if someone had suddenly pressed the mute button on a car alarm. Listen, I preferred that things not become ugly. In spite of all odds. We are parents to a child. But that was rendered impossible by Eden. Calls to common acquaintances began the following morning, making it seem like I had a breakdown and left her because of it. She was unaware that I had already had coffee with the majority of them in the previous 2 weeks. Please do not insult her. Simply to get back in touch and tell the truth about what transpired. Our longtime friend Mike sent her a text message that read, "We've heard the recordings, Eden," completely destroying her campaign. My mom had contacted Eden by Wednesday. In no way meant to justify her daughter or impose guilt on her. Nevertheless, in order to inquire as to Poppy's discomfort. A dam burst during that discussion. When she informed me that Aiden had been their difficult child from the start, her voice quivered. In a competitive market, Strikingly meticulous. Never content. She was afraid they had let her down in some way. She and her spouse would always have my unconditional welcome, I told her. No matter the outcome of the divorce. When Eden found out I had already transferred half of our savings, things really became heated. Her work was an exquisite display of imaginative spelling and keyboarding. At that point, my attorney's email arrived. The fact that Eden attempted to drain our joint bank account was communicated to me. But I discovered it had already closed. This decision was made on the same day that I filed by my attorney. Astute individual. Desperation reached unprecedented heights in week 2. Eden caused quite a commotion in the parking lot when she arrived at my workplace. As she followed me to my truck, alternating between sobbing supplications and hissing threats, her co-workers clumsily attempted not to see. "Contact my attorney," was the only thing I kept saying as I walked. When I returned to work, my boss, who had gone through a difficult divorce himself last year, simply nodded. Without inquiry. "Anyone who has been through it knows, bro." Afterwards, the Jake incident occurred. For the love of God, I didn't plot this out. No one but someone else apparently notified Human Resources at Eden and Jake's employer about the screenshots of their texts. The statement indicating their intention to utilize work time and resources for their meets raises concerns, even though office romances aren't technically forbidden there. Some policy lines were crossed by that. I knew the consequences was coming when Eden's text message panic spiral on Thursday night accused me of wrecking her career. I won't lie and say I felt awful about not responding. Making sure Poppy understood what was going on without making her mother a monster was the most challenging aspect. The child therapist advocated for straightforward, forthright communication. Because of their strained relationship, Mommy and Daddy should stay in separate homes for the time being. If Poppy could keep her stuffed rabbit collection at any house, that would be the most important thing to her. When adults keep children out of the drama, they show incredible resilience. Eden began the drastic actions in week 3. It all started with the love bombing, then Jen got flowers, then it was back to the sender, then I erased a heartfelt message about remembering the reasons we fell in love, and finally my attorney received a handwritten note proposing couples counseling. Following that failure, she shifted her focus to Poppy, transforming into Mother of the Year during her visitation days, lavishly purchasing gifts and discussing the prospect of returning home with us all. My therapist forewarned me that this could occur. Eden hit rock bottom 5 weeks in. Eden, evidently intoxicated, arrived late to Poppy's school spring concert and attempted to create a fuss about wanting to sit in the family section with us. Eden sobbed so loudly that other parents glanced in her direction as the instructor kindly guided her to a vacant seat in the rear of the classroom. Poppy's expression as she saw the vice principal lead her mother out of the school. There are evenings when the picture won't leave my mind. Negotiations for the settlement commenced last week. Sitting serenely across from hers, my attorney laid forth our terms. We are only seeking a fair distribution of assets, a shared parenting plan with defined parameters, and child support determined by our respective income disparities, nothing personal. As Eden turned down every reasonable offer, her lawyer couldn't help but glance in her direction. Last but not least, my lawyer just opened a folder and set the evidence collection on the table. Evidence of her actions at Poppy School, including recordings, screenshots, and testimonies from family and friends who were witnesses. Eden ceased all sound and speech. Something was whispered to her by her lawyer. She gave a single, expressionless nod. 20 minutes afterwards, they agreed to our conditions. A new 2-bedroom apartment, just 10 minutes away from Poppy's school, was leased by me yesterday. The space is unremarkable with beige walls and old appliances, but it offers a tranquil atmosphere. Making pancakes on Saturday mornings with my kid while cartoons play in the background. No need to tread carefully or be ready for the next cutting comment. Eden is still phoning, though she does it less often. "I didn't imagine you would truly depart," she wrote in her most recent text. Despite our 12 years of dating, she had no idea who I was. On Friday, my boss summoned me to his office. I was worried there could be a problem with all the time I've spent on my own, but instead he gave me a little promotion. Just looking to improve my salary a little bit. Nothing major. No positive news for months. Poppy inquired about the possibility of inviting her grandparents around for supper next weekend this morning. I made a nice dinner that night, but nobody ate it. Now she wants to show them. That anniversary salmon will be made again. This time, people will really value it. It is strange how things occasionally pan out. Eden blamed my lack of success from birth. Yet, it was my unfortunate marriage that led to my downfall, and I am now liberated from it.